Hey everybody, this is part of a follow-up series after asking the question, should I move my online D&D game from Roll20 to Foundry VTT? There was a pretty big response of people who are in that Foundry camp. I think people are very passionate about the tools that they use. Makes sense. A lot of recommendations from people saying that, if I had the time, that I should definitely look into it, that this was something that would be worth it. So I wanted to kind of show people my really getting hands-on with it, step by step, and looking at some of the big differences. The biggest difference so far in learning all of this is just how important it is to take the time to go look through all the modules that are possible inside of Foundry, and how those modules can customize the UI and the quality of life experience for both DMs and players inside of Foundry, to get really specific and kind of into the things that you expect your online tabletop to do. So base Foundry, and comparing like its out-of-the-box features, what's turned on by default is nothing in comparison to looking at it once you've put all the modules and things that you're going to run your game with. So I've got two screens up here, and I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna dive in specific on one thing that was just immediately different. One thing that was immediately better, and that's the way that the dynamic lighting works. At first I thought it was going to be a wash in this topic. Really looking into, I think Foundry just has a really clear technical advantage here, and it's in the storytelling aspect. So I'm going to log in on my left screen here as the game master. And on the right screen, I've got an incognito window. I'm going to log in as a test PC. Of course, it helps if I put the actual password here. So I'm self-hosting. So I'm running two clients on the same machine here. So we're going to learn real quick how much of a performance hog this is, both recording full screen on my machine and running two of these clients at the same time. So on the left-hand side here, you can see that I've got a... let me zoom out a little bit on both of these. I've got a setup where I've got all the players from my existing game that I've imported over using tools. So their full character sheets are here. Neat. We'll go into all the details of that later. But then when I see what they can see, let's say take this character and click on them, and now I can see what they can see, and I can move them around the map. It's going to go awful slow. I got some cracks in the lighting that I probably got to work out. But the general idea is that there's a door, and I've got enough mods on so the characters can open and close doors using the E key. It actually stops them from opening the door unless they're close, like really within a couple of feet of the door. So I hit the E key and it tells me, hey, that character can't reach the door. There's no doors near them, but I move close to the door itself. I guess I had to close it. So I open the door and now I can see through it. Let me step through the door, and you can see I've created a room of a building where I can see the walls from either side. I don't have to chop the walls in half. I can see those walls from either side. If I walk around the building, say I've got dim light on, this person can see in dim light. I can see that I can see the wall, which I've made 5 feet thick, sort of like it was a dungeon, a thick, underground dungeon wall. The way that I implemented that, let's look at the dynamic lighting here. So if I look at the actual lines, there's green lines around here. Those are terrain walls, and you can see the same walls around this rock that's in the middle of the room. Let me go over to the player screen here. So I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see. So for the player, when I walk into the room through this open door, I can see through one layer of terrain walls. It blocks my motion. I can't walk into it, but I can see through one level of terrain wall. But the second that my sight line hits a second terrain wall, I can't see past that. So it allows me to kind of see the obstruction, but not see the thing that's behind it. And that right away is really powerful from a storytelling perspective. I can have a rock in place, and I just have the line of sight blocking thing there be really specific. So if I walk around this rock, that's pretty cool. All right. Next, as kind of like a little demo here, I've got an inner room with a bunch of monsters behind it, but it's got a bunch of different types of doors that are supported here. So let me zoom in on the GM version. So I've got a door, a secret door, an open door, an invisible wall, an ethereal wall, and a locked door. And they're all different color types. And those are the different options that are here. So if I go with the character in the player view and go up to the existing door, there's a little icon there that the character can click with the mouse, and it opens and closes. And I get a little audio, which I'm not sure the recording's picking up. I can get a little audio note to say that the door opens and closes. I can also hit the E key because I got to plug in to do that. And I can step through the door and see all the stuff that's on the other side. So that's a normal door. And as the GM, as long as I'm, in this mode here, I can open and close the doors myself as well by clicking on that when I'm not on the lighting layer. If I was on the lighting layer, it would edit where the door is. And then over here, I can go to the secret door, and the player can't even see it. Can't open it, no door was found, but as the GM, it's a secret door, so I can open it. And it seems like the thing to do if you're using a pre-made map is people put the secret door on both sides of the S that sometimes are drawn into the pre-made maps, so the players can't see where it is. That means you might have to build out the wall a little bit or kind of encroach into the room. I think players might eventually be able to figure out where they are, or that there are secret doors just because the GM had to, move the walls into the room a little bit to hide them. But if you draw your own maps and it's just a solid wall in the art, you can open and close a secret door only on the GM side. You can't do that on the player side, which is cool. On the GM side, if I ever wanted to, just change that, I could go to the lighting layer. I can go into that little purple section, click into it, and start changing some of the settings on the door. Like, is it secret? If I make it not secret and hit save, now it should be visible over here on this side to the player. So I move it so it updates, and yeah, there he is for the player as well. So there's an open door, just to show the state, so I can close it. It's just the reverse of a door. And then here's an invisible wall. So this would work, say, if there's like a window or something that someone could look through, but I can't move through. I can't open or close it. It's just a wall that's invisible, but it acts like a wall. Next is an ethereal wall. So you could say, maybe if I need to walk into an area that's obstructed by mist, I can't see into it, can't see past it, but I'm allowed to move through it. There, it's an invisible wall. It's almost like in a video game when there's an Easter egg behind the kind of an invisible wall that you can walk through and not see through. So it's sort of the opposite of an invisible wall. It doesn't block walking, but it does block sight. And then down here's one of my favorites. There's a locked door. So in the GM view, you can see that there's a padlock on it. But in the player view, it just looks like a door. And when I hit, I get a very different sound. I get a lock sound, which is kind of neat. And then over here, all I have to do to change it from a locked door to an unlocked door is as the GM, I right-click it, and that unlocks it, and now it shows the player should hear that unlock sound. Now I can open it and walk through. So that's a quick look at a couple of different types of doors and walls and obstructions that you can build. And I think it's going to allow people to, as the player, kind of self-navigate so the GM doesn't have to move every single little line of sight blocking wall for them. It also allows you to sort of leave a room in place in its last state. So if as people come back, you can just have it be consistent. What doors were open and which ones were closed. Maybe if there were monsters or moving about, they closed them, and that would be a sign that something changed. So there's a lot of storytelling advantages here, and just quality of life for the GM. I really like it, and I'm really looking forward to finding creative uses for invisible walls, ethereal walls, and these terrain walls to kind of make it so that players have a better sense for how they're supposed to interact with what's on the map. All right, so I'm gonna keep going and doing some of these module reviews once I've kind of got my final set composed. But I just thought this was just a really big thing that I didn't appreciate how different it was at my first look. So I'm just gonna keep posting stuff as I explore. I'm spending a lot of time learning about Foundry, and I just wanted people to see it. All right, thanks everybody.